exciting, and it's also a bit confronting, which is interesting because this is the front gallery, the cafe. So it's interesting to have a solo show of all my work that I've been doing over the last year, and mostly in the last 6 months, painting and taking photographs on this theme of female-centric, motherhood, mother artist, and it's been very, very interesting and cathartic as well. You know, I feel like I've purged a few demons or something, delved deep into.
And maybe, is this your first solo exhibition?
No, it's about the 5th. I'm actually not sure it's the 4th or the 5th. I can't remember whether it was one in, but over a period of over 20 or so years, I've only done about 4 or 5 solo exhibitions. The rest have been a lot of group exhibitions. Putting on a solo show is a lot more work, and
And what were the themes of the other ones, the other exhibitions, solo?
Well, the last one I did was also similar to this theme, and that was called Dean's Mum's Paintings, that exhibition, which I had at Summer Hill, where I live in Sydney, at the Red Door Gallery there, and that was about 3 years ago now. So I just sort of felt like, I'd been a mum for a long time, and I lived in this community, and people knew me as a mum and as a child carer in Summer Hill. So when I thought, look, I really need to have another exhibition, I haven't shown my work for a while, and it pushes you to paint a lot more as well when you've got that deadline. So I thought, what will I call it? And I thought, well, my identity in this community is very much of a child carer and a mum. And everything's focused around my child at the time because he was in primary school, So I called it Dean's Mum's Paintings because that's who I was known for, in a way.
And how was the response to that one?
Response? Very good. I sold a couple of works. That's not a lot, but, this particular theme on motherhood and female-centric art has a small audience of women, who this kind of work speaks to, But I'm not a well-known artist, I'm not out there in the galleries or painting every single day. I have to juggle quite a few things that I do because I run a business in childcare, have a son, I'm a single mum, and so I'm constantly working in the job. But I also do a few different things in the arts, like community arts and music and theatre. So, it's one of those things where my painting, which is a great passion and a love, is the behind the scenes that I do at home, and then the music stuff is more social and out there.
And do you think doing the painting, doing these kind of paintings you do, what kind of effect does that have on the way on your thinking in terms of being a mother?
Can I go back in time a little bit? I started doing these paintings before I was a mum.
Right.
So I was in and out of art schools for many years, and working in theatre, then going back to art school, doing music, having a girls' band. And I was working with women who had children in the girls' band. And that's when I first realised how hard it was for mums and for women. And we'd have rehearsals and the kids would be there and we'd get interrupted a lot, and so they'd be feeding them or giving them something to do, and then they'd come back to the rehearsal. And there was this real distraction, this kind of, are we ever going to focus on this music? So it took a lot longer, I think. The men would go out and they'd have their rehearsals child-free, and we often just accepted the fact that this is how it was. And I was, single at the time and just observing what was going on, and I just accepted that. I just kind of realised, if you're going to be a woman in the arts, it's just going to be a lot harder for you, because one, you're either going to decide not to have children, or you're going to work with women who have got children. You just accept that they're always there. So we do this multitasking as mothers anyway. And then to add arts to it, you're multitasking even more, you know. So I'm not exactly sure. It was around about the late 80s, I think, that I started doing my first motherhood or, you know, mother and child paintings around the ideas, possibly my own fears to do with motherhood and whether I was going to become a mother, when I was going to have a baby, all those questions that you ask. When am I going to have my child? And, you know, am I going to even do this because I'm an artist? Because how am I going to, you know, juggle my time? And I come from a background, migrant family, and my mum was great in the home. She did everything, and she cooked and cleaned, and the house was, you know, perfect. And yet when I was growing up in the 70s, there was no great expectation on me to become a mum like my mum had been. There was an expectation for you to go out and have a career or a job. And because I felt like, you know, I wanted to be an artist, I didn't really feel I was going to go into any kind of career. So, and I wasn't going to get married, and I wasn't going to have children. So the whole thing was really different for me, you know. When I decided, you know, I'm going to go to art school and I'm going to be an artist, that wasn't a problem, but it did become a problem in that I couldn't envisage how I was going to do this and, you know, have a family one day, and, you know, it's a lot of working out, I think. You know, I spent kind of 10 or 15 years, you know, trying to work it out until sort of things started to come together. Yeah.
And did that come up at the School of Art at all? Were there other people there who had children at the School of Art?
Well, my first art school that I went to was here in Canberra, and I was actually kicked out after a term, probably because I was unfocused, or just, you know, I was really young, and it was a good thing I got kicked out because it made me go to Sydney and seek out other things that I might have wanted to do. I joined a theatre, drama school, did theatre, wrote my first plays, you know, then went back to art school and things like that. What was your question, sorry?
When you were at school, was it the School of Art at the ANU that you went to, or which one?
I went back to, so I did TAFE and went to art school, but then eventually I went to uni and did a Bachelor of Creative Arts, and it was there that I did even more of my work in motherhood and domestic themes, and it was there that I did an enormous painting of a woman screaming in this, it was Wollongong, so it was a Wollongong background of the steelworks and all that sort of, you know, smoke and everything of the factories. And she's sort of standing in the middle of this screaming with a vacuum cleaner wrapped around her, as if to say, you know, how do I clean anything when the environment's like this? So that was more to do with domestic housework rather than motherhood. But when I did this large painting, the head of the art department came to my studio space and said, well, that'll be fine in the ladies' tea room, but it's not high art. And and I think that was really hard for me to take because I put a lot of work and effort into this, and mind you, a lot of the work that I was doing practically, you know, since high school was rather unconscious. I didn't sit down and plan, you know, I've got ideas about, you know, society or women or anything. It was really an unconscious thing. So I was actually hurting a very personal part of me because that's how I felt deeply. Luckily at the time, Sue Rowley, who's a fantastic lecturer at the school, I discussed this with her and she's like, don't worry about that silly, you know, man, you know, don't worry about it. And so she gave me hope and confidence, and I actually went out then to Sydney with my portfolio of work, thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be fine, I'm just going to get into a major gallery with my work. But in fact I was rejected, so they basically said, we don't show figurative art, and we are looking for more contemporary abstract work. And mine, of course, is, you know, not abstract at all.
Interesting.
The theme of domestic work, is in your paintings, but it's now married with motherhood, the theme of motherhood. Can you talk a bit about how the objects of care are what you've painted, and because that's what mothers have around them. So people paint what's around them. For mothers who do care and domestic work, these are the objects around them.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I have a love of these objects. I mean, I've always looked at an iron and thought, gosh, this is a gorgeous, thing. And I've also looked at photographs of my grandmother way back, I don't know, 1920s or something like that, 1930s. And they're very old photographs of her with an iron, ones that used to put on a stove. And that's a fascinating object to me too, and the fact that there's a change in how these objects look, but also a history in that my grandmother, who ironed in this old-fashioned way, which took a lot longer, whereas the irons today, you can iron more quickly and they look very different. So there's that history of the object and the change and the effect it's had on women as the object has changed. The reinvention of these objects, like a sewing machine, for example, works a lot faster perhaps today than it did then. You don't have to use your feet, you don't have to use your physical body. Not that you look at the painting and think, oh wow, there's that history in that, but that's in me as a love of that. Because I was 7 years old when I used my first steel pedal sewing machine. I loved the object, I had a connection to it. So I've always done sewing. I've always, enjoyed, Interesting, I might just sidetrack here a bit. As I was putting the show up yesterday with my friend Russell Barrett, who did a wonderful job of putting the art up, a man just walked in here into the gallery off the street, just came in, looked at my paintings and decided it was, fine for him to make a comment. He looked at the sewing machine painting and said, oh, I wouldn't put a sewing machine up on my wall. And he just walked straight out. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of typical, of some men. They just come in and make their comment about, something that in essence is a female object. I mean, men use sewing machines too, but I think in essence these objects really are connected to the female side. They're very female-centric, I think. I connect to them very much so, and they were always around me and around my mother, and so there's that connection with mothers, these objects that are used in the home, and I have a special connection and love for them. Yeah.
One comment I'd make about that though, which I thought I might make tonight, is that I love seeing those things in paintings, the iron and the broom. The broom I love.
Yeah. The wash basket.
The stove, But it's, for me, and I think for you, but obviously you have to say what you think yourself, but it seems to me that they have been female objects because over the 20th century that's what women did. They primarily were the primary carers and they did the domestic work, even though men might have helped out a bit, but it was kind of women's role. Yeah. But now there is a change where, it's not like, the way I'm seeing it, it's not like that's a woman's thing, an iron. It's out there now, up for grabs, and anyone can have it and anyone can do it. It's not like it's, so for me, this is representative of a time of change where historically over the 20th century they have been female objects, but women are moving away because they're doing many other things.
They are. Look, I don't do a lot of housework. I was saying to my mum, I said, Mum, I haven't vacuum cleaned in a year, and that's terrible. I hate to admit it. I do get cleaners in sometimes because I'm so busy running a business, and my son takes time as well, and I want to do the things that I love. And when I do some painting, housework is just down there, and so it doesn't really get done. I'd rather meet people in cafes and bring them over to my house. But Was the
They're owned by, the objects are owned by women, or they belong to women. So it's, we want to open it up so that the men have as much use of these domestic tools of domestic
they
care.
use the objects, and of course, you know, they even invent them. They invent vacuum cleaners or whatever. But you know, it's just the way, like female-centric. This is what I've called this show. It can't be helped. I mean, that as a female with that sort of female-centric viewpoint, you're going to look at these objects in a kind of connected way that a male might not.
Yes.
So he might look at a jackhammer and go, "Oh, you know, I really like that."
Power tool.
But see, I would find it really hard to paint a power tool. I sort of wouldn't have that connection to it. Though, depending on how if I created a painting that had some kind of motherhood thing there, and the drill was part of that, whole idea. Yeah, maybe I could. But you know what I'm saying? It's that connection. You have a connection to the stove. You have a connection to, I don't know. It'd be interesting to ask a man how he felt about certain objects. I mean, female-centric viewpoint can come from a man. You know, there's a photographer called Alec Dawson, who American photographer, but he lived in Australia for a while, and I'm really grateful to him for the course that he did here, and I did one of his photography courses. And I was really surprised at how well he photographed female-centric situations, ideas. He's got some lovely photos of women sewing, and he sort of does a quirky thing in his photographs where, you might find something strange in it, which I really like. But he's got a photograph of a single mother with 2 children in a kitchen as well. So that female-centric idea doesn't necessarily have to come from a woman, but it's just that as a female, you tend to view things or connect in that way a lot more than a man might do.
Well, it connects to your maternal heritage as well, because you know that your mother used these objects and your grandmother did too.
Yeah, that's right.
But talking about the photographs, there seems to be more in the photographs than the paintings, with the exception of the large one of the bride with her feet up the wall, and then the wallpaper with are they stamps?
They are stamps.
Stamps of domestic, her domestic things,
chores.
Her chores, that doing care work is part of how it affects your relationship. So the one with the ironing the man, the one tethered, so the electrical cord connecting the partners, and the tea towel kiss.
Yeah.
So you are thinking about relationships in a domestic sphere as well.
Yeah, I think what's happened in the last year, since I've thought about this a lot more, this theme, I wanted to do paintings that expressed that connection between the relationship, when a woman marries, it starts with she sinks in his arms and ends up with her arms in the sink idea. So I thought about it a lot more, but I thought I really don't have the time to do a whole range of paintings in a year that express these things. And I had done Alec Dawson's photography course where I learned a few tricks on how to take an interesting photo. I'm not brilliant technically, but I thought if I take the photos, I'll get those ideas across more quickly. So I took the photo, which is called Contemplation, of the woman lying down and resting. It's like a quiet moment where she's having a think about, what am I getting myself into? If I get married, is my life going to turn into just domestic work? That's the empty wash basket next to her, empty at the moment before she's married. And then is that wash basket going to fill up with lots of clothes, i.e. lots of chores, endless chores. So that's the idea behind contemplation. This one where she's ironing, she's clothed,
Yeah.
he's naked.
Yeah.
And that's kind of in opposition to the history of nude women.
Yeah.
You know, nude
But
paintings
The
of...
person with the clothes is the person with the power.
Well, the person with the clothes is also a thinking person, someone who's operating from, you know, I'm a human being with some respect, and I do
Clothe
things.
myself.
And I do things in life. I'm not just standing there completely nude like Gaga, you know. And I've turned it around so that he's naked, but he's also has the iron cord from her iron that she's holding and in power of. It goes to him and around his neck. So even though women do all the housework and they're seemingly like the slaves to it, and even though he as a man, you know, seemingly in the world has the power, he's actually tethered to her because if she doesn't clean and
Clothe him.
and take care of the home, his life is stuffed as well. So
It's
in
the,
a
It's
way,
the idea that every successful man needs a wife.
yeah. So look, it was really exciting taking these photographs. The models, Mikhail Skeets and Sarah Campbell Miller, are a great and unusual couple, not only because of their age difference, this massive age difference which society won't accept, but also the fact that they were so willing to do these photographs with this particular theme in this unusual way, to present to the world, you know, there's actually different things going on in relationships, and this is, you know, possibly underneath how it really is. So we need to have a look at that. We need to discuss, you know, marriage, housework, you know, and
when you're
going
negotiating your marriage,
Yeah.
you think it's going to be equal, then it's, as soon as you have a child, it's everybody's off to their gender corners.
Yeah. That's right.
Although I think you always should acknowledge that there is change, that there are more men.
There
is
is
Things are
change.
changing.
There is change, and this is the good thing. And I think that's why this kind of art can be here now and can be more accepted.
Exactly.
Like, just to mention this couple again, who are a great couple, I think there is a role. You know, the roles they play are quite different and not you know, your standard. Like Sarah goes out to work, you know, 5 days a week, and Mikhail stays at home and does the housework. So you have got that difference, you know, happening there as well. So yeah.
Just going back to that thing about focusing like on the domestic and calling it female-centric and having an iron and a sewing machine. It worries me a little bit that some people could look at that and, you know, because there are people who want to promote the idea of women staying in the home.
Look, I've tried to address that in myself personally, you know, and I even thought, look, if I was a really, I don't know, well-balanced female human being who felt really stable and secure in the world, I probably wouldn't have this, you know, sort of strong female-centric viewpoint. That's what I've thought. I've thought, look, there's women out there that, you know, work with men in high positions, maybe even earn more money than they do, feel powerful, and have actually said things like, I don't have any problems with this. I'm not a feminist, and I don't think I need to be, you know, because I think we've got equality. I don't think I've felt that way personally. I think there has been, you know, a lot of situations. I mean, we have a high case of domestic violence in Australia. I mean, what does that tell you? That tells you there's division. It tells you that there's not a lot of equality, and there's not a lot of respect too in some homes. And I think that's also something that the whole female-centric issue addresses as well, you know, when there's that balance and stuff. But getting back to your question of...
Well, it just worries me, just to be clear about what are you saying in terms of where women should be? Like, how do you see the future in terms of gender equality? What do you think about gender?
Oh, right. Okay, well, for a start, I think the photographs address that a little bit better than my paintings, about where we should be heading. Possibly thinking about it a lot more, like in contemplation, having a bit of a think as a female, as a woman. You know, I mean, that's what women have been doing for quite a long time now. You know, thinking about where am I at in terms of being a female in the world. How do I get equality? How do I get power? How do I communicate, you know, for the rest of my life and make it all work as a woman and as a mother? And I think the ones with the couple as well, role reversal and looking at that, so that men and women start to talk about, well, look, you know, I don't have to be a typical male, you don't have to be a typical female. Let's look at this job that we've got together of looking after the home, looking after each other, and what we can bring to be able to raise a family properly without being so, you know, gendered, you know, in that way.
What do you hope people who see your paintings in this exhibition take away as a message or as a point for action?
Well, I just want to go back to saying that because I work so unconsciously and have done for such a long time in my paintings, I just think people are going to connect in a way of either loving the object and enjoying the art for its colour and for its vibrancy. Because I think I'm a good colourist, and people point that out straight away. Now, I had a little girl come in yesterday with her dad, and she had a big smile on her face, and her father said, she wants to tell you, she was about 7 years old, he said she wants to tell you that her favourite one is the stove. So she got excited by that and really liked it, and so you can see that from an early age, you know, even young girls, you know, sort of relate to this kind of topic and theme. So I think at the end of the day, it's just going to give a little bit of a thrill to people to see these things that aren't normally in a painting. That's one thing. But from a political point of view, I guess what we've already talked about, if people can go away thinking, you know, maybe I need to treat the opposite sex in a different way, maybe I need to rethink, you know, how my life is going, and possibly change something that's going to make things better. That's a good thing. But like I said, I never set out to say anything political. I never set out to change the world. I just set out to express and portray what was deep inside of me, what was bothering me, or my personal fears. But it does, you know, seem that other people feel in a similar way. So that's a good thing.
And also that idea of valuing that work. Like, I mean, a hell of a lot of work happens around the stove. And it's still going to happen forever, because we're not going to give up eating. No. So stoves are an important part of it.
Or washing clothes.
Or
sweeping the floor.
So we might one day, I don't know how much it's going to change, just like the irons change in the sewing machine. You know, we're heading towards a sci-fi future, so you never know. You might just tip your clothes into something, press a button. You know, I mean, we're still doing that, but we're getting the clothes out and we're putting them on a line. And I love clotheslines, and I love seeing clothes on a line. But we might not ever have to use a clothesline. We might not have space because of the environment. You know, we might just go into a container, press a button, come out presto, all ironed and everything. You know.
Maybe, but I can't see that happening.
I don't know, technology's changing very quickly, so
I guess with the washing up, with dishwashers, isn't it? But you still have to wash up a bit.
You still have to, I get my son to unstack or stack the dishwasher.
Yeah, the dishwasher.
I've got him working as a bit of a slave, you know.
It's everybody's responsible for it.
Yes, everyone's responsible.
So children should be doing their domestic chores.
That's right.
Yes, and even if you're living on your own or you're living in a share house, you still need to do this work.
You do.
In fact, my son, just an anecdote on that, my son was saying he went to stay in his friend's house recently down in Geelong, and he said their way of operating the kitchen is everything is dirty until you need it, and then you wash it. He said there's not a whole lot in the kitchen.
Well, actually, I heard a really interesting story last night. I was out with my friend. I won't name names, but He's a man in his 50s and he has a teenage son who's about 17. And the son actually left home and went to live with some other people and then came back to live just with Dad. And the problems they had with housework was enormous. And it came to the crunch after a few months and the dad just said, I've had enough, I'm not cleaning up after you anymore, that's it, you're out. Son was really upset, left and went to live somewhere else. But of course, he does a lot more work, housework in the new place he's in because he's living with a stranger, not family. We have this attitude towards family, oh, well, I'm living with mum and dad, I'll just let them do it. And, you know, so I guess it's really important for, you know, mums and dads to sort of try and work that out if they can. If they can't, this is what happens, they don't live together, you know.
And for kids to learn while they're young.
Yeah. It's all difficult when parents have to go out and work and they can't spend that much time with family. You've got, you know, society brings them up in a way rather than family these days. Yeah. But anyway.
Think anything else? Well, thanks, Vee. That was really great.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed the show, the openings tonight.
Yeah, excellent. We'll be there.
Thank you. Thanks very much.